I've come to understand that life, with all its ups and downs, needs a steady foundation. For me, that foundation is God. Through all the good times and hard times, one thing stays true. I need God, not as a last thought or something extra, but as the center of my life. His love, His kindness, and His steady presence are what my heart holds on to. In a world that changes so much, where things, understanding life's foundation, life can feel overwhelming, can't it? With all the ups and downs, the unexpected twists, it's easy to wonder where we find our solid ground. Have you ever asked yourself, what is the one thing I can rely on, no matter what life throws at me? For me, the answer is simple: God. He's not just a comforting thought when everything falls apart. He's the center of my life. His love is unwavering, His presence constant, and through all the changing seasons of life, I find peace in knowing that He remains the same. The illusion of self-reliance. I used to believe I could handle everything alone. How many of us have ever felt that way? We think we're strong enough, wise enough, independent enough to manage life's battles without help. But no matter how much we try, life has a way of reminding us that we can't do it on our own. I've been there, exhausted, drained, and wondering where I went wrong. It took me many painful lessons to realize that without God, I'm bound to fall short. It was only when I acknowledged my need for Him that I found real strength. Moving beyond lukewarm faith. Have you ever felt stuck in your faith? Like you're trying to live with one foot in the world and one in God's kingdom? I've been there too. The Bible warns us about this. Revelation 3:16 says, "Because you are lukewarm, neither hot nor cold, I'm about to spit you out of my mouth." It's a powerful reminder that God doesn't want us to settle for a half-hearted relationship. We are called to be all in for Him, fully committed, wholeheartedly seeking Him above all else. It's not about perfection, but about being fully present in our faith. The power of surrender. Let me ask you this: how does it feel to be in control of your own life? For most of us, it's comforting, right? But what if I told you that surrendering to God could bring a peace beyond what we could ever achieve on our own? Surrender is often seen as weakness, but it's actually the most powerful act of faith. Proverbs 3:5-6 says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding." Surrendering to God is about trusting that His plan is always better than our own, even when we don't understand it. Prayer, more than just words. When was the last time you prayed? Really prayed? Not just a quick request, but a deep, intimate conversation with God. Prayer is the heartbeat of our relationship with Him. It's where we lay our worries, fears, and hopes before Him, and in return, He fills us with a peace that the world can't give. Philippians 4:6-7 says, "Do not be anxious about anything, but in everything, by prayer and petition with thanksgiving, present your requests to God." Prayer is not a ritual. It's a direct line to the one who knows you better than anyone else. Living with purpose. Have you ever felt like you're just going through the motions day after day? Like you're stuck in the routine and wondering, is this all there is? Living for God means living with purpose. Romans 12:2 reminds us to be transformed by the renewing of your mind. When we live intentionally, when we choose to follow God's lead, every action becomes meaningful. It's not about what we do, but how we do it, with a heart that honors God. Each decision, each interaction becomes an opportunity to reflect His love and grace. Faith in action. Faith is not just something we believe in, it's something we do. James 2:17 tells us, faith by itself, if it is not accompanied by action, is dead. Our faith comes alive in how we treat others, how we handle adversity, and how we reflect God's love. Faith means stepping beyond our comfort zones, showing kindness to those who may not deserve it, and forgiving those who've wronged us. Are you living out your faith today? In every act of love and grace, we share the heart of God with the world. Gratitude, a new way to see life. What would happen if we looked at everything in our life as a gift? Even in difficult times, there's always something to be thankful for. Philippians 4:6-7 calls us to bring our requests to God with thanksgiving. When we choose gratitude, we shift our focus from what's missing to what's been given. Gratitude transforms our perspective. It helps us see God's hand in both the blessings and the challenges. Are you looking for God's presence in your daily life, even in the hardest moments? The healing power of forgiveness. Forgiveness isn't easy, is it? Whether it's forgiving someone else or forgiving ourselves, it can feel impossible. But forgiveness is central to a life of faith. Colossians 3:13 reminds us, forgive as the Lord forgave you. Forgiveness isn't just for the other person, it's for our own freedom. When we let go of bitterness, we release ourselves from the chains that hold us back. It's a process. But each step toward forgiveness brings healing, peace, and the freedom to move forward. Trusting God through trials. Have you ever wondered why difficult things happen? Why do trials and hardships come into our lives? James 1:2-3 tells us to consider it pure joy whenever you face trials, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Trials refine us, don't they? They teach us to rely on God, not on our own strength. When we walk through pain with God, He doesn't just get us through. He strengthens us, transforms us, and brings us closer to Him. Do you trust Him in the hard times? The gift of His unfailing presence. One of the most beautiful promises God gives us is His constant presence. We don't face life alone. Psalm 23:4 says, even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. No matter what we're facing, God is right there beside us, guiding us through. His presence brings peace, comfort, and strength. Have you experienced this kind of peace in your life when you feel lost or weak? He is your refuge and strength. The power of God's grace. Have you ever felt like you've messed up too much or fallen short one too many times? We all have moments when we feel unworthy, but that's when God's grace shines the brightest. His grace is not about being perfect. It's about being loved despite our flaws. Ephesians chapter 2, 8-9 reminds us, "For it is by grace you have been saved, through faith, and this is not from yourselves, it is the gift of God." Grace isn't something we can earn, it's a gift. And when we accept it, we're free to grow, to learn, and to live with the assurance that God's love is bigger than any mistake. How has God's grace impacted your life? When you embrace His grace, you open yourself to a deeper relationship with Him, the call to love others unconditionally. How often do we find it easy to love people who love us back and hard to love those who don't? Yet, God calls us to love unconditionally, just as He loves us. Jesus said in Matthew 5:44, "Love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you." This is a radical love, one that goes beyond what we naturally feel and extends even to those who hurt us. It's in these moments of loving the unlovable that we reflect the true heart of God. It's not always easy, but it's in these acts of love that we grow closer to God and reflect His character to the world. Who in your life is God calling you to love today? Finding peace in His perfect timing. In a world that moves at lightning speed, it's hard not to feel impatient. We want answers, we want resolutions, and we want them now. But God's timing is perfect, even when it doesn't match our own. Isaiah 55:9 says, "As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts." When we trust in His timing, we learn to rest in the peace that comes from knowing He's never in a hurry, but always on time. Are you struggling with waiting on God's timing? Trusting that He knows what's best and when to act brings peace in the waiting, knowing that His plans are far greater than ours. A life fully committed to God. What would it look like for you to live a life fully committed to God, not just in the big moments, but in the small, everyday choices? Jesus said in Mark 12:30, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and with all your strength." It's about being fully present in each moment, loving God in everything you do, and trusting that He's guiding you towards something greater. Are you ready to live for God with all that you are?